Hello! In common with many other resorts that date from the 19th century, Felixstowe is characterised by what I have behind me, and that is beach huts. You'll find them along almost the whole length of the Felixstowe coastline. For most people, they're a little home from home where they can spend lazy days watching the world go by, as well as having a base to enjoy the beach and the seafront. Most people equip their huts with facilities to make a cuppa, or even to cook lunch. And of course, the hut is somewhere to sit in the warm and the dry. An essential here in Felixstowe, even though it's supposed to be the sun trap of the East Coast. Huts are much sought after, and one in Felixstowe can cost between £5,000 and £15,000, depending on location. If you think that's steep for what is, after all, a glorified garden shed, then one in Dorset recently sold for £160,000. Of course, it's not the hut that gives it the value, but the view and the proximity to all the seafront activities. Owners still have to pay Suffolk Coastal for their pitch, and in addition there are maintenance fees as well as annual moving fees for those huts that need to be moved back in the winter. So why is it that traditional resorts like Felixstowe have beach huts? Well, their history goes back some 250 years. The whole phenomenon of seaside resorts began because doctors started to extol the virtues of sea bathing. This led to the development of large resorts like Brighton that allowed the wealthy to go and enjoy the health benefits of the coast, and of course other facilities began to develop around these. This was followed by other resorts on the south coast and here on the east coast. But these were the days when it was considered unseemly to bathe in the sea in public, and this gave birth to the bathing machine. These were horse-drawn carriages that reversed into the sea and allowed the bather to change and to descend into the water with maximum privacy. There were usually separate men and women's bathing machines. Bathing machines even got the royal approval. Well, in 1789, George III took a dip in the sea at Weymouth. Bathing machines characterised Felixstowe from the earliest days of the resort. This photo was taken around 1880. However, at the end of the 19th century, people began thinking that if they could have their own private changing room to bathe from, then why not have a private space to enjoy the beach, as well as shelter from the wind and, well, the rain. They began to erect huts similar to fishermen's huts along the coast. Here are a number of early postcard pictures of Felixstowe with their beach huts. Many of these would have been owned by the local hotels for use by their guests. With changing views regarding public bathing after the First World War, bathing machines died out, people preferring to use the static beach huts as a base for bathing, as well as somewhere to shelter on the beach. In the era of mass British tourism up until the 1960s, beach huts were a strong feature of the UK seaside resort scene, where beach huts were available for hire by the day or by the week, either from private owners or from the local council. Even the Royals had their own beach hut in Norfolk, which was sadly burnt down by vandals in 2003. Beach huts can be found in many of the traditional resorts around the UK, and they even made it to other places, for example on the near continent. Over the years, the response of the public has been to either love them or loathe them. Those who own them use them because they're a haven of peace, somewhere to rest, somewhere to watch the world go by. Huts appear in a huge variety of colours, overall condition, and sport a number of imaginative names. To others, huts are a blot on the landscape, ruining unspoilt coastline with a ration of nothing more than glorified shacks. In some places there's been pressure over the years to remove huts from areas of high amenity value, or at least tidy them up. We can see evidence of this in Felixstowe, where these permanent chalets sprung up as tidier replacement for huts. The council also built terraces into the cliffs in certain places as they carried out coastal protection work. Here's a picture of Cliff Road in Old Felixstowe in the 1920s and at present. The whole idea of rest and leisure has changed radically in the last 100 years. During the 20th century we saw the advent of paid holidays, the shorter working week, mass tourism and cheap travel that allowed people more time to do what the Americans call R&R, rest and recuperation. Leisure time. People don't usually associate rest and relaxation with religion. There was a time not so many years ago where people associated the Christian faith with people who didn't have a good time and who were only interested in hard work. However, when you look in the Bible, what you find is that God invented rest and relaxation. In the Bible, the people of Israel were told to observe the seventh day of the week as a Sabbath day. It's in the Ten Commandments. Sabbath is the Hebrew word for rest. In fact, in the Jewish law, the Torah, there were a whole series of measures to rest the land and also to celebrate holy days, holidays, where people wouldn't work but use them to have a good time and to worship. In their society, there was no separation between the religious and the civil. The Sabbath and holidays found their way into Christian culture. That's no surprise, as we have the same need to rest. It's something fundamental. Look at our society, and many people find that the source of stress and depression is a failure to have adequate R&R. We're fortunate in our country that we've developed two non-work days for most people, Saturday and Sunday. What a pity that in so many parts of modern life, rest days are being eroded. There was another purpose why God commanded a rest day, a Sabbath. That was that it gave people time to stop and reflect on who they were, and on life, and on God, to worship Him, to give Him thanks for the good things in life, and to ask His help for the things that were not so good, and to ask the fundamental question, where's my life going? Because without God, the answer is nowhere. So today's a sunny day, a really nice day for rest and relaxation. If it's your day off, then enjoy your R&R. But remember who invented the whole idea of having a rest. And maybe take some time to think about him. If today's a Sunday, perhaps go along and meet with other people and worship God. Thanks for listening, and may God bless you.